Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires Belief Cast. As always, thank you for tuning in. You guys have been fantastic. We are trending on both Apple and Google podcasts. I can't even believe that when I think of that. So thank you. It's because of you guys believing in this message and believing in what I'm doing. So thank you. A shout out to my sponsors, Craig Swap and Associates, Wasatch Recovery, Thread Wallets, Maury Nutrition. And then the beautiful music you heard at the beginning, at the end of the show, is by my good friend Paul Cardall. He's an award-winning pianist. He's got 25 million active listeners. So thank you, Paul, for letting us use your beautiful music. So, guys, you're in for a treat today. As always, man, we have such amazing people coming on, and today's going to be no different. Today, we're joined by Kelsey Lensman. Kelsey, thanks for being here today.
Todd, I'm so excited to be here. And it's funny because my brother and dad's name are Todd. So I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm right at home right now.
Yeah, I noticed that. I watched a little podcast with you and your dad, and I thought, hey, that's a cool name. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, spell the same and everything.
Yeah. So you guys, Kelsey, she's 28-year-old entrepreneur. She's sports medicine specialist. She's a sought-after speaker on a mission to empower women everywhere. She graduated from The Ohio State University with a degree in sports medicine. She initially planned to go to physical therapy school, graduate school. However, she had something happen to her that she had a tug on her heart, and she wanted to do something different. We're going to talk about that. Boy, she's a 5-time bodybuilding competitor, 4-time powerlifting competitor. She founded EmpowHER Fitness, which is amazing. I can't wait for you guys. It ties into this amazing feat that she did. It's called Mission 48. We're going to talk about that as well. It sounds like you're writing a book, Kelsey, that's coming out in 2025. Can't wait for that. And again, this woman has a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and more importantly, she's out there trying to make a difference in people's lives, especially some of these younger women who maybe struggle with believing in themselves. But we are so lucky to have her today. So Kelsey, welcome to the show.
Oh, Todd, I appreciate that. You just need to follow me around anywhere that I go, or any day that I have a hard day. I'm like, hey, give me that Todd boost right there. But on a serious note, I'm just so excited to be here and to give value to your audience. And for those that are listening, you are listening to this for a reason. It's not, by coincidence. So I'm just excited to really dig in with you.
Right on. I wanted to this is kind of a little curveball, but I noticed that you have done Spartan races, and I wanted to brag a little bit. I'm doing a Spartan race tomorrow.
Which one?
Yeah. It's the one in Utah. It's called the Snow Basin Spartan Race. I'm doing the Beast.
Oh, that is no joke. That's 13.1 if I'm not mistaken.
13.1. It'll be my 4th time doing it. I even have my Spartan shirt on today. And when I saw that, I'm like, hey, we'll have an instant connection because of that, because that race is no joke. And I'm excited to do it, though. So,
well, I'll tell you this. Out of all the things that I've done, I've never done a beast of the Spartan races. So you'll have to let me know how that goes, and good luck. That's my biggest wish for tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. Well, why don't we get started? I know there's a lot to talk about, but I want to start off with having our listeners and viewers to get to know you a little bit better. Tell us kind of where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your childhood.
Oh, let's do all the way back then. So I am on the other side of the country in Ohio, and I grew up just 2 hours north of where I'm at currently. So I'm currently in Columbus, but I grew up in Canton, Ohio. Shout out to Canton, Ohio right there. And I grew up in an amazing family in the suburbs. And when I was younger, I was very much, my identity was an athlete. And I didn't realize how much that was my identity until it was kind of taken away from me, or when I transitioned from sport. I'm like, wow, like that was a big part of you. But I grew up, like I said, in a pretty loving family. But even as amazing as my family was, I still had a lot of self-doubt. I still had a lot of like, am I good enough? I still had a lot of lack of confidence issues. And I think, Todd, this is what's interesting is externally, like friends or family or friends of family, they would
Yeah.
think like Kels kind of has it all going on, like she's the athlete, she's getting good grades, but internally that internal dialogue was a lot different. And so I think that that's why I'm so passionate about, all different ages and types of women, but especially kind of that younger demographic too, because I'm like, man, if somebody would have talked to me about, the mental skills or really how to truly believe in myself at that age, it probably would have course corrected me a lot earlier in my journey, which is important.
Yeah, which is obviously fueling your passion for what you're doing now. Were
Mm-hmm.
you, among the struggles though, is that something you kept to yourself when you were growing up, or did you try to talk about it with anyone, or was that just something you were like just internally dealing with?
Honestly, internally dealing with, and it was less of, kind of the internal thoughts and dialogue. It was more of how I acted. So for example, I remember I played basketball in high school, and I would be so nervous for the basketball games because I thought, if I had a bad game, quote unquote, to my standards, like it was like I was not worthy of anything. Like my worth was tied into how I performed, or if I thought I had a bad game, I wouldn't want to go out even to see my family because I thought, what would they think about me? And so it was, like I said, less of me even understanding that mentality back then. It was more of, I just thought that was kind of normal. And I thought that's, I struggled with it, but I didn't really understand to the extent to where I'm at now. So yeah, it was really interesting back then. Really, really interesting.
Yeah. I think, most of us listening to this can relate with that. Cause again, when you're younger, you don't even want to bring it up, let alone, talk about it with anyone, because that almost feels like even worse. And it's just like, I'm the only one dealing with this, so they wouldn't understand kind of thing. And so, but I'm glad you point that out, because I think that's something we can all kind of relate to. But obviously you're an athlete, you're pushing yourself, you work your way up into college. Tell us about your experience at the Ohio State University.
Oh, well, it's funny. You said the Ohio State on the intro, and
I did
was
that
like,
for you.
He only knew. So I was this close, and I'm holding my thumbs up to those that are listening. I was like probably 2% close to not going to Ohio State, because when I went to their intro, they kept saying the Ohio State, and I'm like, okay, I'm over it.
Right.
But kind of on that same note, so I, like I said, graduated from high school, went to Ohio State my freshman year, obviously. And I ended up rowing randomly for Ohio State my freshman year. So I still had my team. I still had practices to go to. I still had, my crew there. And then from my freshman to sophomore year, they basically gave me a decision. They're like, okay, Kels, you either continue rowing for Ohio State because it's kind of a full-time job on top of everything,
Right.
or you choose your career, which my career was sports medicine. And so I needed to do clinicals and all of that. And I remember thinking, well, I'm not going to be a professional rower. It's not in my cards. So I ended up choosing my career and going the clinicals and sports medicine route. But I'll tell you, Todd, and for those listening might hit home with this too, is whenever I transitioned from sport to kind of doing the right things, I was getting the good grades, I was doing really well in clinicals, I lost myself in that process. And I lost that fire of like who I actually am, and it's not like I hit rock bottom that everything was kind of crumbling around me, but I hit my rock bottom of, remember looking in the mirror thinking like, who am I? Like, what do I like? What do I not like? What actually lights me up? What am I passionate about? And that was one of the hardest and scariest times for me, because I'm like, well, where do you start with that? Sometimes when you're in that state, it's like, well, things are okay externally, but I still don't feel good, And so I remember I told myself, like, I just have to get me good. And I didn't even know what that meant. Like, what does that mean, get me good, But I remember saying, like, Kels, you used to work out, and when you would practice, like you would, physically exert yourself. And now you're just not doing that because you quote unquote don't have time, but you do. You're just not doing it,
Right. Yeah.
So I just remember getting myself back in a weight room, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm starting at. I don't even know what to do. I don't even really know how to lift a barbell as much, but I'm just going to start and keep doing it. And that really led me to kind of gain momentum. And like I said, I tell everybody early on in my journey is I did it ugly, quote unquote. And what I mean by that is, like, I just showed up, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect. And I had days where, I was off, but I just kept showing up for me. And through that process, physically, yes, I changed, but also, I got better people in my community. I was changing my mindset. And so I just had to start somewhere. And then that transitioned to, a lot of different changes in my life that was important to me.
Well, I love that. In my recovery, one of the biggest things that's helped me the most, honestly, is a morning workout and lifting weights and doing that kind of thing. And I call it my morning medication. I got to take my meds this morning. I'm hitting the gym, and so talk about that for a minute, because you mentioned that it really helped you with your mindset and probably your mental game and just your overall mental health. Talk a little bit about that, if you would, Kelsey, about how that really helped you in those areas.
Oh, and it continues to. I'm very similar to you. As first thing I do every single day is I go work out. Not every day. I have some off days,
Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
Days. And I think for me it was, multiple, but I'll say twofold for me. I think first, and this is anybody, but specifically women and myself, I didn't even know what I was capable of. I remember specifically doing a certain back squat, and I was going for as many reps that I could. And I was like, I can get maybe 5 reps. I ended up getting 20 reps of it,
Wow.
And I remember in that moment thinking, I thought my ceiling was 5. Like I thought, man, I'm lucky to get 5. But really, when I broke through that, like my full capability was 20. It was 15 more than what I thought. Right.
Jeez.
And so I think the reason why I'm so passionate about the physical part of it, especially for women too, is when you realize what your physical body is capable of, then you realize like, man, I can do so much more than I ever thought mentally. Or I'm capable of so much more. And so for me, it really just opened the floodgates to, okay, girl, like you got more in you than you're giving yourself credit for,
Yeah.
And so then that kind of led me on the next step of like, well, I don't think that I can do this, but I proved myself wrong here. So maybe I can prove myself wrong in this other area of my life,
Yeah.
So that was kind of one facet of it. I think the other facet was honestly just developing the discipline muscle of there's days I don't want to show up. There still are to this day. And I know you might get this. The alarm clock goes off and you're like, I'd rather hit snooze. I'd rather move this workout, to later. And it's like, Kels, like you told yourself you're going to do that. You got to keep that promise to yourself, And even to this day, Todd and everybody out there, like I'm not perfect. I will never preach to try to be perfect. But I've realized over time of developing that discipline muscle and developing that, for me, it's keeping promises to myself muscle. That is what truly evolves my confidence and what helps me show up in other areas of my life, So to this day, I always say, like, if my fitness kind of is slowly starting to fade, I see that lack of momentum in other areas of my life too. And so I really have to keep that a strong pillar in my life.
I love that. I heard a quote once, and I'm sure you've heard it. It's pretty famous right now, where it goes like this: Usain Bolt trained 4 years to run 9 seconds, and then it went on to say like how discipline, like you just mentioned, that discipline muscle, having self-discipline is the greatest form of self-love. And just what you're basically doing is saying, hey, I'm doing this because I love me, and I'm worth it. I'm worth the time. I'm worth the energy. And I'm really glad you pointed that out, that we all have that muscle if we're willing to make it stronger. And it's amazing when we do that and how good we feel when we hold our own feet to the fire, if you will.
Yeah. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that quote. And I mean, even you kind of echoing back that it's a muscle, because I think, especially in my previous few lifetimes, I was like, some people just have it and I don't. I really envied people that would consistently show up for themselves. And I really was like, man, I just wish I was born with that thing. And through my journey, which is why I think I hit home with so many people that are kind of in that mentality, it's, it's not that some people are born with it, not. It's a muscle, you develop it. And just like your bicep, for example, if I don't train my bicep, it's going to atrophy, it's going to weaken. Or if I, hit the hammer curls and the bicep curls, that bicep's going to grow. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think mentally, and this is what we try to hit on with our athletes and our women, is your mindset is truly a muscle. It's not just this thing that you are given and not given. And when you truly start to work it out, you realize like, okay, shoot, like I do got that thing. And it gives you just so much more leverage going forward too. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, you bet. Beautifully said. So you were heading to be, a physical therapy graduate school. That's where you were heading. Obviously something happened and something was pulling you in a different direction. Will you talk about that
Yeah.
You're going in one direction. All of a sudden you realize, you know what? I need to go somewhere
Uh,
else.
I wanted to shove that something else down so bad, Todd. I was like, it's not now. This is not the path,
Yeah.
because I said I was going to be a physical therapist for prior to that, like 8 years. I had a pretty bad four-wheeling accident in high school, and
Mm,
the physical therapist helped me get back, and not only just physically, but mentally. And so I had my quote unquote path for like
yeah.
8 years, and so
Wow.
it was going into my senior year. I changed a lot of my life. I was changing how I was living. Like physically, yes, my physical body changed it, but I was learning how to fuel my body better. I was really learning how to kind of evolve as a human, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if I can do it, anybody can. And also at that same time frame, I was, like I said, in sports medicine, and I would see people in the gym and they would be doing RDLs, for example, or squats. And I would see their form and I'm like, oh, no wonder your knees hurt, or no wonder your back hurts,
Yeah.
And
Right.
then on
Yeah.
the flip end, I would see them in my clinic and I'm like, well, if we could be proactive with this and really teach people correct form instead of reactive, like that might help them. And so during that time frame, like I said, my senior year, I kind of had a gut feeling is the best way that I can describe it. It was this gut
Yeah.
feeling of, Kels, there's something else out there for you. And I'll be very honest with everybody listening to this, that scared the living daylights out of me. I was like, no, there is
Right.
not something else out there. I said
Yeah.
this path, but after a little bit, it was something that I couldn't ignore, and I always say too, like I had the decision, actually, not to go on a tangent, but I'm going to tangent and bring it real quick back.
Sure.
Is I have this theory and it's called my rocking chair theory. And I envision myself when I'm like 95 years old in front of a fire, on my little rocking chair with my blanket. And I can literally visualize this. And I always say, for me to be on that rocking chair, my biggest success in life is to be there and think, dang, Kels, like you freaking went for it. You're proud of how you showed up. You
Yeah.
didn't let doubt, fear, hesitation hold you back. You were scared, but you did it anyway. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of on the flip end of it, my biggest fear in life, which sometimes is a bigger motivator for me, even though it's not as beneficial, is to get on that rocking chair and think, what if? What if you would have taken that leap?
Mm,
What if you would have made that decision differently? What if you would have done the thing, but you let doubt, you let fear, you let hesitation, you let comments from others steer you out of that decision, And
yeah.
so at that time frame, it was once again one of those things where I had to put myself on that rocking chair to say, hey, do you not want to go this path because you're just afraid a little bit? There's a lot of unknown. You really don't know what that looks like. Or do you want to not go on this path because you truly don't think it's for you? And when I was honest with myself, and I had to be brutally honest with myself, I was like, I'm afraid. Like, I don't know what starting a business looks like.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
know, how to operate that. But I had to take the leap and I had to start. And so that's when I started my business out of undergrad, and it was helping people in sports medicine and fitness. And as you know, growing a business, it twists, it turns, it's up, it's down.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you just got to keep going. And for me, it's a God thing. Like he placed it in my heart, and it's up to me to truly make it all that I can be at the end of the day.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you obviously, went down a different path that was right for you. Obviously, a little scary, as you mentioned, which again, anything brand new is scary, but you did it, and you're doing some amazing things right now. I do want to get really quick into you. You're a 5-time bodybuilding competitor and also powerlifting competitor. It's one thing to go to the gym and work out for our mental health, but man, you took it to another level.
Oh,
So what?
yeah.
Talk about that experience and just kind of give us, some of the things maybe you learned from competing on that level.
Yeah. I never thought I would do half the things that I've done physically. I think people see me now and they're like, oh, that's just Kelsey. That's how she operates. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, if you would have seen me 10 years ago, I would have never thought I would compete in 5 bodybuilding competitions or, lift close to 400 pounds. Like that's just not a thing,
Yeah.
But I remember once again, it was in college. Just a lot changed for me at that time frame. Is I had this person come up to me, like they tapped me on the shoulder and they're like, hey, are you doing a competition? And I'm like, competition? What are you talking about? And they're like, a bodybuilding competition. And I was like, you have to be out of your dang mind. I was like, me on a stage, first of all, no. I didn't see myself to that capacity, or I didn't see like what I could actually do. And so it's very similar, Todd. I pushed it down for months. And then once again, kind of that still voice in my ear was like, well, Kels, what if you could do it? Like, well, what if you could? You might not think that you can now, but what if you could? And so I finally said, all right, like, let's go for it. And I hired a coach, and I didn't tell anybody for the first like 3 or 4 months that I had a coach because I was still doubting. And then once again, that really, I'm not an advocate of just bodybuilding of like, hey, anybody should do bodybuilding, right? Because it's a very kind of extreme sport. And you have to really be particular about who you work with and all of that. But what at least that season showed me was, dang, like I didn't think that I could do it, and I did it. And it required discipline. It required focus. It required saying no to things that I would have probably said yes to before. It required going on a different path, than a lot of other people. When other people be going to the bar, I'd be going to the gym, and so that it taught me a lot of those kind of life lessons. And then through that, I was like, okay, like, let's see how much I can lift. And I like pushing the limits of what I'm capable of. And I like surprising myself fully. And so that's why I continue to do different kind of things in the sports and fitness arena. Because personally too, I'm an athlete. I like to have a goal. But then also number 2, you kind of get to unlock another level of yourself, and you get to see truly what you have within you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Again, you're very passionate about what you do when you finally set your mind to something. It's pretty cool to hear and again, I love that you point out too, that you also struggle with just, man, I'm scared and I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I don't want to be on that rocking chair later in life going, man, I wish I would have tried. But here you are and you push through that. So I think that's amazing that you're doing that. I want to get into this Mission 48, quite the mission, if you will. Talk about that and why you came up with that in the first place, and let our listeners know what Mission 48 was all about.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a broken record right now, but it kind of comes from very similar origins. So what Mission 48 is I created a national campaign where I did 48 different fitness competitions. So everything ranging from a powerlifting meet to Olympic lifting meet to a running event to a biking event in 48 states. And the kicker was in 48 days. And so we went a state a day. I threw a whole new event for women in that state to come with me and do the event with me. And the biggest goal with it, Todd, is just to not have, people watch me around the country, but was to really inspire women and young girls specifically to push their limits, see what they're truly capable of, and really build true self-confidence. And so we also partner with a charity called Rocks, Ruling Our Experiences. And they did 20-week programs in schools for young girls to talk about things like confidence and body image and a lot of the stuff that I think especially young girls nowadays need more than ever. So we were able to fund over 130 girls for that program, which was amazing.
That is amazing. So I can't imagine. I mean, you had to have been exhausted.
It was more mentally exhausting than even physically. I'll tell you, it was one of those things, Todd, and I'll be very transparent with this. I think for me, like I had a certain expectation of how it would go, every single day. And for those listening, it's like, we can build up these expectations in our brain. And sometimes not all the time does it live up to it, and certain states were amazing and especially played out how I thought they were going to. And in others, it didn't, And so I think more than anything, yes, physically it was challenging, obviously, but also mentally of showing up and needing to be at your 100% for yourself and other people, every single day. And, the curveballs that we got thrown that we weren't expecting. And, a lot of things that people didn't see on social media were the most challenging pieces of it. And I personally grew a lot during that time frame.
Boy, I can imagine. And speaking with that, I want to talk a little more personal here where, you obviously are helping a lot of young girls, believe in themselves, love their bodies, look at themselves in the mirror and love what they see staring back, those kind of things. What were some of the, I guess, highlights of working with some of these younger girls? And then maybe what were some of the most difficult, maybe questions you even received from some of these youngsters looking up to you?
Oh, they have the best questions, I'll tell you.
Right, don't they?
Unfiltered, so it's like anything goes with them. So we even talked about, our events that we run, but I run like all women's strength events around the country. And specifically we had a 7-year-old at our last event. And what it was is we did squat, bench, and deadlift, and you try to get as much weight as you can for squat, bench, and deadlift. And so I'll never forget her. She was lifting with her mom. So her mom competed and she competed. And she was scared out of her mind. She did not want to go up on the platform in front of everybody because it's intimidating, right?
Yeah.
She had her little tiara on. Like it was just the cutest picture, but she was so afraid of that day. And I know women, no matter if you're 7 or 72, like putting yourself out of that comfort zone, obviously is uncomfortable no matter who you are. But I'll never forget, she went up there and she was shaken and she did her little squat and she crushed it. And you could just see everything in her brain tell herself, I just did the thing I didn't think that I could do. And okay, let me try more, And so she got through her squats and then she got through her bench. And I'll just send you the picture, Todd. She has a deadlift and she pulled up the bar on deadlift. It was like, she weighs, I don't know, maybe 60 pounds. And she pulled up like 65 pounds,
Wow.
And it was just amazing. And she not only inspired herself, she inspired every single person in that room of, hey, if this little 7-year-old can do it, I can do it,
Yeah.
And I think especially just working with the young girls, and I speak at like a lot of schools for young girls, is I always have them just like kind of set a goal for themselves and then try to break that goal. And I've realized once they do it, they realize like, once again, it's a very similar message of, okay, I can do more. Okay, you know what? My body is capable of more. And I think especially nowadays when, there's so much talk about like body image and all this and comparison, it's like when you physically understand what your body is capable of, you look at it differently, and you see its value versus everything that's wrong with it,
Yeah.
So that I'll never forget that story. She's amazing.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you personally doing this Mission 48, like and I know this is a tough question because I'm sure there's many lessons you've learned from it. What was the biggest takeaway for you on a personal level doing this Mission 48?
So I'll be very honest. Once again, I'm a very transparent human.
Please.
After I came back from Mission 48, I had so much clarity on changes I wanted to make in my personal life and my business. And I always tell people that you don't need Mission 48, to be a pattern interrupt for your life. But for me, like I had 48 days where I was out of my routine. I had 48 days where every day was different. And I think specifically, I mean, even for years prior, it was, I wake up, I go train, I work, we help great humans, but it was once again, kind of this monotony and routine of it, that in that pattern interrupt of 48 days, I'm like, all right, Kels, like you want things to look different when you come back, and you don't want to do certain things that you did before, and you want to pursue other things that, put on the back burner because it's not what your routine was, prior to. And so kind of personally for me, I got really honest with myself and I made some really hard decisions that were not easy. But I told myself like, quit avoiding hard conversations, quit just taking kind of the easy path or the known path, and really, really go after, what you're put on this earth to go after. So it was a lot of personal reflection during the whole time frame too.
No, that's awesome. Again, we talked about this in the beginning. You're a very passionate person. You have a lot of high energy and I know you do a lot of that when you're speaking and things like that. What does your day look like a typical day for you? Like, do you have like a morning routine? I mean, what gets you set for the day and for you to go, again, live up to the things that you have expectations for yourself, and how do you keep that balanced through all that? And are there certain things you do throughout the day that kind of balance you through all that?
It's a continual process for me too, and I think as you continually, want to reach new levels, what has worked before, is not going to work forever. And so kind of what my now is, which I'll share, looks a lot different than what it might be in 6 months, but I think specifically for me, I wake up, and obviously like I brush my teeth, I do all the things, but I work out first part of my day. And I've just noticed for me mentally and physically, when I do the physically hardest thing of my day, I get such an early win, and it's not this thing hanging over my head of like, oh, you still have to do it. And, I, once again, just physically exert myself. So I feel very kind of accomplished and I have momentum at the beginning of the day. So I do that. I come home, I feed my dog. He's my best friend. We go on a walk real quick. And,
nice.
honestly, after that, I just get into my power list. And so usually what I'll do the night before is I have 5 main goals or main objectives that I need to do in my business that next day. And so
Okay.
for me, kind of that day starts the night before. And I'm really big advocate of that, of, I get to bed at a certain time. I have my power list set, that day of. And so when I wake up, it's not like, oh, what should I do today? I have so
Yeah.
many things that I've already decided on that I'm just operating then, and I think especially
Yeah.
nowadays, it's really easy. We have so many decisions that we need to make that we got to kind of decrease that decision fatigue at the end of the day. And so,
Yeah.
like I said, I'll kind of get into my work day, and work days look so different kind of every single day. Sometimes it's, talking to our event hosts around the country. Sometimes it's serving clients one-on-one in their check-ins. And sometimes it's, creating marketing stuff. It looks a lot different every single day. But then I usually try to wrap up, take my dog for another walk, and listen to a podcast. And then it depends what we have after. So it's kind of looks a little bit different every single day. But like I said, that workout is a big, big piece for me.
I agree. That's awesome. Do you have any kind of someone that you like to follow? Meaning, like, do you like reading books? Is there a certain type of book you like to read? What are who are the mentors? I guess what I'm trying to ask is that you follow in your life.
Oh, if you can kind of see my background, I have a lot of books. So books are my jam.
Yeah.
My favorite book by far is The Four Agreements. It is
Yeah.
have you read that before?
Oh yeah. So here at Wasatch Recovery, that's one of the books one of our standard reads for our clients when they come into treatment. They have to read that book.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I love it. So that's my favorite book. But from a mentor standpoint, I'm trying to think I'm a faith-based girl, so I listen to actually a good amount of pastors kind of in this area. So I do that. I listen to Ed Milet show, Alex Hormozy for business ideas and kind of business on that trajectory. I've been honestly too, and on a Sarah Blakely kick, which she's the founder and CEO of Spanx, and Jesse Itzler. I really appreciate kind of their viewpoint of business and fun and being able to kind of live life. I'm a big believer of that versus just waiting for life to, happen. So I would say those are a few names that are kind of the virtual mentors that I have that, I just take a lot from there.
I love it. So you're a woman of faith, and I think that's amazing. And you talk about that a little bit as well. Why is that so important to you? And talk a little bit about, kind of how that developed in your life.
So faith for me, it actually coincided very similar to my fitness journey. And I really do believe that if I didn't have that nudge in pursuit of the faith, that I wouldn't be doing the things that I am today. And what I mean by that is, one, I think he's placed that, that goal and desire in my heart and the gifts in my heart. But at the same time, like, I don't think Kelsey, the human, can just do it all on her own. I don't think that, I have the full capability of, doing everything and anything. I think for me, it's like, hey, I have God within me, like he's somebody that I can lean on, but I also have his spirit within me. And so if I just don't lean on myself, but I can lean on literally this eternal power, this God that has so much love for me and for everybody else, it allows me to have the foundation and I think just confidence at the end of the day of like, all right, girl, like you got this, and I think too of, hey, he's given you this gift, pursue the crap out of it. Like instead of, just doing it for you, like he's placed this within you. Okay. If he's placed with this within you, it's meant for you, And so that's really, Todd persisted me through some hard times, through some times that I'm like, this is hard. Like, throw in the towel moments. It's like, all right, like he didn't place you here just on accident. He didn't place you here and these people in your life just by coincidence. Like truly take each moment as a gift. And it's easier said than done. I know this. But truly value what you have around you versus just take it for granted too. So it's been a big, not just fallback in my life, but a big foundation in my life that I continually want to really lean on him versus just lean on kind of what my flesh does at the end of the day.
Okay. So why is helping other people so important to you?
These are some good questions. I've never been asked these types of questions on them.
Hey, I did my homework. I'm ready for it.
I will say, I've always been very much a caring nature. I've always really cared about people. But I will say, Todd, more than anything, the reason why I believe like helping is so important is I'm going to sound like, once again, a broken record, but I didn't think I could do the things I am today. and I see so many people disqualifying themselves or thinking they can't do it, or, just kind of stuck in this loop of like, well, I guess this is all I deserve in this life, and I fully believe that everybody here is made for purpose on purpose. And that's not just something, cliche to say. It's really like you're here for a purpose. You're listening to this for a purpose. You're where you're at in your life, whether it be a high moment or whether it be a really low moment. People need you. People need you out there. They need you on the previous person that you were. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because like I said, I see so many little, like, kind of previous Kelseys out there. And I'm like, all right, like, if I can kind of pull them along and show them what they can actually do, they're going to change the world for a better, and I really do believe in the ripple effect of when you have a positive impact on somebody's life, that'll ripple so far and wide, through so many people that you don't even know, And so I believe we were put on here to help and to serve. And so I'm trying to do that the best of my ability.
Yeah, I love that answer. And it kind of sparked something in my mind. I had a client that I was working with here at Wasatch, and we were doing like a group session. We had like 16 clients in there, and everyone was going around kind of sharing something that was really, something impactful to themselves. And this guy stands up and says this, and I put it to my memory because I thought, you know what, that was so perfect. And here's what he said. I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my brother. Sorry, I just butchered that. I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother. I found all three.
Ooh.
Right? And I thought, and when he said that same thing, I had the same response. I was like, wow. I go, there it is. And so basically you just said that, when I asked you the question, why is helping others so important to you? That's basically what you're saying. Is that, would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. That quote gave me goosebumps, actually. And I truly, I see God, I see myself, like when I'm giving, I feel more me and more, it's not even taught a feeling that I can really even communicate. It's just this feeling of fulfillment and this feeling of, I don't even know. I don't even have the right words right now for it, but I completely agree with that quote.
Yeah. What do you love most about yourself?
Once again, another really good question. The first thing that came to my brain, honestly, is just my heart. And for those that do know me, they know that I care a lot, sometimes to the detriment of my own self at sometimes. And I believe a lot in people, and I really try to pull the potential out that I see, that other people or themselves, they don't see within themselves. And so I really try to keep my heart in a good place, right? And to make sure that I'm doing the things for really quality reasons. But every time I kind of check in, it's like, all right, Kels, like, yeah, you're doing it for such a good impact. It's not just, for more social media followers or this crazy stuff, it's truly in the right place. And I appreciate that about myself. And then also, not to add another one, but I'm at another one real quick.
Sure.
Also just the persistence that I have. I think a lot of people kind of see what I do and who I am, and they just think that, everything's kind of come either easy or, like she just has this thing that I don't. And it's like, if you only saw so many of the days that I had to persist through and so many of the times that so many people would have given up, but I kept putting one foot in front of the other. I really respect myself for that. And that's something that I try to draw into even now and going forward. There's still those days, but I realize, like, hey, if I put one foot in front of the other back then, I can do it again today. And so those are two qualities that I appreciate for sure. Beautifully
said. You mentioned in the very beginning of this about identity, and, your identity was an athlete. And, what I just heard now is your identity is more in these core characteristics of persistence and love and caring and helping and strong and courageous and brave and, hardworking. I love that, because I think anyone listening to this, I think a lot of times, if not all of us, go through this where we forget who we are. I think, Kelsey, you're amazing at what you do because of who you are. You're great even at being an athlete, not because that's who you were, but who you were made you a good athlete. Who you are made you good at bodybuilding and competing there, and then this Mission 48, and then the influence you're having on these, especially the younger, specifically girls, and you're good at it and great at it because of who you are to your core. That powerful identity.
I appreciate that. And I really do receive that, because before I'd be like, oh, I appreciate it, but let it roll off.
Yeah.
But I really do receive that. And I appreciate that, because I think before too, my identity was very external. It's what I did. It's, what group I was a part of or what team I was a part of. And now for me, my identity is very internal. It's whose I am. It's, what amazing qualities that were gifted to me, but also I build up within myself. And I think for that, like, that transfers anywhere. And this is not, I share that to not boost myself up all the time, but to truly share with the people that are listening of, once again, those qualities transfer. If you were an amazing athlete, and you did amazing, that's not just past. You still have those qualities of persistence. You still have those qualities of, showing up for yourself, and just transfer that to a different arena, because it's a gift. It's not a curse, And so when we can see our gifts of what we have within us, that transfers wherever we go. And that's some powerful stuff.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. If there's a young girl right now, or anyone for that matter, who's listening to your voice, and they're in a dark place right now, they're struggling. You've already shared some really amazing things, but that one person right now who's just listening and struggling, what would you tell that one person?
There's actually two things that come to my brain. First two things that come to my brain. And this first one might not make any sense, but I promise you it's going to pull back. I would say first, help somebody that you can help. Okay. Be like, put your arm behind and help somebody out, whether that, be serve at a local shelter, whether that be, with a specific group that's, helping pick up litter. I think when we can really be of service to people, it allows us to not necessarily compare circumstances of like, okay, I got it better, but to allow us to really feel that fulfillment and to feel that love, and that, sometimes just some good feelings that we need when we're in a really hard place. So I think first, and I've never said that before, because people have asked me this question. I've never shared that, but that was the first thing on my brain is, actually, real quick deviation, I'm going to pull back. Number two is Tim Tebow talked about this for a moment. And he talked about when he, lost a certain award, or whenever there's something that really hard happens in his life. I'm going to completely paraphrase this, so do not quote me. But before he reacts, before he, does anything else, he goes and serves somewhere, whether that be, at a food shelter or something else. And I was like, I love that, because I know for me, like, my world can sometimes feel so big, of like, oh my gosh, it's not going well in my world. And it feels like, my whole world is crumbling down. And sometimes when I get outside of myself, of like, Kelsey, there's a lot of things bigger than you, girl. Like, yes, it's hard right now, but also it doesn't mean that everything is crumbling down. And so I think sometimes that can kind of give good perspective, at least for me personally.
Yeah.
But then I also think number two, and this is not wrapped in a pretty bow and, beautiful, is just put one foot in front of the other. Don't start big and 180 your life tomorrow. You're going to wake up tomorrow, and you know what? Go on a 10-minute walk and keep that promise to yourself. And don't change anything else. Just go on a 10-minute walk, right? And the next day, wake up, go on a 10-minute walk. Don't 180 everything. Don't feel like everything has to change tomorrow. But I really do believe, Todd, in momentum. I believe when you're in a really hard place, it can feel like everything around you needs to change. But I'm going to challenge whoever's in that hard place of like, just focus on one little tiny thing and keep that promise to yourself of doing that one little tiny thing, and allow that to really compound over time. And then maybe in a week from now, you're like, all right, I got my 10-minute walks. Like, let me add, a big glass of water. Let me, write a letter to somebody, like whatever that looks like. And over time that will compound. Okay. I take it back. I'm going to add a third one.
Okay.
I have to add this
good.
one.
No, I love
it. Is reach out to somebody that has the values that you either want to have in your life, or get around somebody that's a really good human. I think that there's not enough people nowadays. We have a phone, we have social media, but that's not actually being around really good humans, And so, like I said, don't go for the person that's maybe, allowing you to make bad choices. Go for the person and just be open with them of like, hey, I'm kind of struggling right now. Hey, you know what? Can I, just tag along with you for a walk at some point? I think that there's so much value in being around good people and continuing to surround yourself with those good people. And so I'm a big believer in community too, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Great advice. I think that was beautifully said. So thank you thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah.
So, we talked about this too as well, but what can we expect from your upcoming book and this documentary that you're going to be doing?
Oh man, that is a journey in of itself. So
I bet.
it's really all about it. Actually changed. I was going to make the book, really about building self-confidence, which is what I talked about a lot in Mission 48. But once again, I really just had a gut feeling of, hey, Kelsey, it's a little bit different. And a lot of people ask me like, hey, how do you start Mission 48? How did you pull this crazy idea together? And what I realized, and I use this in so many different areas of my life, is a lot of people have those nudges, those dreams, those kind of gut feelings inside of them, but they don't know how to start. They don't know where to go. And so they just let them die. Right. And so what this whole book's going to be about is like a 6-step process of how you go from understanding like what that nudge is and deep in your heart, and then how you make it reality. And hopefully through that process, we can really have some cool dreams and some, maybe businesses or, fitness journeys, whatever that looks like. Some really cool things come outside of that and truly be able to make it a reality versus just, letting those dreams, or for me, God nudges inside of you die. Yeah. So that'll be coming out. And then we're also doing a ton of our events next year too. So it's going to be a lot of crazy things, but good things at the same time.
Yeah, well, you're doing great things and I'm really impressed. And again, I love the way you carry yourself. It really is inspiring. And I love that you also talk about the struggles through all of this, because I think a lot of people might look at you and go, oh my gosh, she's got it all. She's lucky. Look where she's at. And no, you put in the work behind the scenes that no one had, was there in those moments of probably blood, sweat, and tears, if you will. Mm-hmm. But I really am impressed with how you carry yourself, and you're so easy to talk to.
I appreciate that. Trust me, you don't understand how much that means to me, to be honest with you. So I really do appreciate that.
You bet. So if people want to reach out to you, Kelsey, and get to know more about you, more about what you're going to be doing, and to be able to also eventually get your book and learn more about your documentary, what's the best way for someone to do that?
So usually Instagram, I'm the most active on. It's just at Kelsey Lensman. It's pretty easy. I'll make sure the handle's in there for you guys. And then website too is kelseylensman.com. Keep it easy for people. So if anybody is out there, and I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart, if something that is either hit home with you, or you're like, Kelsey, I'm kind of in a low moment right now. Message me. And I don't just say that, like, I'm not going to solve it, right? Like I'm not here to, solve all the problems of the world, but I'm here to be a listening ear. And sometimes just knowing that somebody cares about you can be the biggest game changer. So I'd love to talk to anybody. Or if you have a crazy dream, I'll be also the biggest fan of that fire too. So would love to hear about that.
Yeah, very well. That's awesome. I will put those links also in the show notes, and so people can just link right to your website and also Instagram, so they can just hit you up directly. So we'll definitely put that in there. So, well, hey, I can't thank you enough, Kelsey, for being on my show today. It was inspiring. Again, so impressed with what you're doing, and you really do give hope to a lot of these, especially these younger kids, that you know what, I'm going to do something big, and I don't want to be on that rocking chair at 99 going, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that. So very well said, very well spoken. And I just love your mission and what you're doing, and I'm here to support you.
Todd, I appreciate more than you know, and just appreciate too everybody that's listening. Like I said, you're not here for a coincidence. It's for purpose, on purpose. So I appreciate you just sharing the message that you do, and excited to continue to follow.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, there you go, folks. I told you were in for a great episode today. Kelsey Lensman, please reach out to her. Hit those links that I have on there and reach out to her. Get her book when it's available. Support her in any way that we can. If you have a son or a daughter that is struggling and they're not sure, you're not sure what to tell them or how to help them break out of this, maybe this rut that they're in, send them a link to this episode, have them listen to it, and then follow back up and ask them what did they learn from Kelsey, And I'm telling you, it will spur an amazing conversation. And I think it'll break the ice, and you'll be able to get some information that's going to help them. And then maybe you can even direct them to talking and reaching out to Kelsey. So please do that. Thanks again to my sponsors. And Kelsey, one last big thank you to you. You're amazing. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.